Born in California but raised in Michigan, Tony Ferguson wasn't your typical MMA fighter. A three-sport athlete in high school, excelling in football, baseball, and wrestling, Ferguson honed his competitive spirit early. Ferguson's early career wasn't just about wins and losses, it was about forging his identity. He honed his wrestling base, developed a diverse striking arsenal, and embraced the mental warfare aspect of fighting. This relentless drive and willingness to face any opponent became hallmarks of Boogeyman, the nickname Ferguson would later earn for his unorthodox fighting style and relentless pressure. The path wasn't always smooth, but it shaped him into the unique and exciting fighter the UFC would eventually discover. Tony Ferguson's journey on The Ultimate Fighter wasn't a smooth glide into the spotlight. He entered The Ultimate Fighter 13 in 2011, not as a decorated champion, but as a 10-2 prospect. He landed on Team Lesnar, coached by the larger-than-life figure of Brock Lesnar, the former WWE and UFC heavyweight champion. While Lesnar's imposing presence and power wrestling were a stark contrast to Ferguson's unorthodox style, their paths unexpectedly intertwined. Tony Ferguson had not only won The Ultimate Fighter 13, but he had done it in dominant fashion, solidifying his place as a force to be reckoned with in the UFC's lightweight division. The unassuming contender had emerged as a champion, earning not just a UFC contract, but the respect of his peers and the roar of the crowd. Tony Ferguson's The Ultimate Fighting 13 victory wasn't just a trophy, it was a launching pad. He entered the UFC in 2011 with a bang, taking down veterans like Aaron Riley and Clay Guida. His unorthodox striking, relentless pressure, and diverse skill set confused and overwhelmed opponents, leading to a dominant 7-fight win streak. This hot streak solidified him as a top contender, earning him fights against ranked fighters like Edson Barboza and Anthony Pettis. He emerged victorious, displaying improved striking and an unbreakable will. The UFC lightweight title seemed within reach, but fate had other plans. While Tony Ferguson was stringing together victories and successes in the lightweight division, there was another fighter equally compiling wins and dominating the competition. His name is Khabib Nurmagomedov, the undefeated Dagestani grappler destined to become Ferguson's nemesis. This became a recurring theme, with subsequent bouts canceled due to various reasons, each igniting the rivalry further. 5 times their paths crossed, 5 times fate intervened. Injuries, weight issues, and even a global pandemic conspired to keep them apart. The cursed fight became a legendary MMA saga, fueling fan anticipation and leaving Ferguson's title aspirations unfulfilled. While waiting for Khabib, Ferguson continued his dominance. He defeated Edson Barboza in a legendary 25-minute war, then claimed the interim lightweight title with a dominant win over Kevin Lee. His unorthodox brilliance and relentless pressure seemed unstoppable. But the Khabib shadow loomed large. Every victory felt bittersweet, a reminder of the unrealized challenge that haunted him. The frustration mounted, his public persona shifting from quiet confidence to an almost obsessive focus on the elusive fight. Finally, in 2020, the stars seemed to align. Their highly anticipated clash was set, but once again, fate intervened. The global pandemic and the ensuing travel restrictions shattered these plans. Khabib, finding himself back in Dagestan amidst global lockdowns, was compelled to prioritize health and safety over competition. His announcement via Instagram that he would remain in quarantine, unable to leave Russia for UFC 249, underscored the gravity of the situation. The cancellation of their bout for the 5th time underscored not just the personal frustration for the fighters involved, but also highlighted the unprecedented impact of the pandemic on global sports. Khabib's decision to stay in quarantine, communicated through his social media, reflected a commitment to global health over personal ambition, marking yet another chapter in the saga of missed opportunities between 2 of the sport's greatest competitors. Fate, or perhaps the cursed fight itself, intervened, leaving Ferguson with a void where his championship dreams should have been. He wouldn't stay idle. Stepping into the octagon at UFC 249, he faced Justin Gaethje, a man known for his own brand of violent brilliance. The fight was a spectacle, but ultimately, it wasn't the ending Ferguson envisioned. Gaethje's relentless pressure and sharp kicks found their mark, leaving Ferguson on the canvas and his title aspirations shattered. This wasn't just a loss, it was a turning point. The shadow of the cancelled Khabib fight seemed to lengthen, casting doubt on the once unstoppable Ferguson. Subsequent losses to Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler added to the narrative, raising questions about his adaptability and ability to compete at the elite level. But to write Ferguson off would be a mistake. He returned to his roots, dropping down to lightweight for a crucial clash against Beneil Dariush. The fight was more than just a contest. It was a chance to exorcise the demons of the past, a chance to reclaim his place amongst the division's best. Ferguson fought with the grit and determination that made him a fan favorite, but Darius proved to be a formidable opponent. In a close and technical battle, Darius emerged victorious, leaving Ferguson's future in the division even more uncertain. Ferguson's encounter with Nate Diaz at UFC 279 concluded with Diaz securing a victory via guillotine choke in the 4th round. This matchup underscored the resilience and skill both fighters brought to the octagon, with Ferguson demonstrating his trademark tenacity despite the loss. Following the battle with Diaz, Ferguson stepped into the octagon against Bobby Green at UFC 291. The fight was intense and competitive, but ultimately Ferguson was submitted by Green via an arm triangle choke near the end of the 3rd round. This fight added another chapter to Ferguson's storied career, highlighting the unpredictable nature of MMA, where fortunes can change in the blink of an eye. The most recent setback in Ferguson's career came against Paddy Pimblett at UFC 296. Pimblett managed to dominate the fight, nearly finishing Ferguson in the 1st round with a powerful knee and subsequent ground and pound. Despite Ferguson's efforts to mount a comeback with some effective strikes in the 3rd round, Pimblett controlled the fight on the ground, leading to a unanimous decision victory. This bout further illustrated Ferguson's indomitable spirit and the harsh realities of competing at the highest levels of MMA. Tony Ferguson finds himself in uncharted territory. A fighter once revered for his relentless pressure and unorthodox brilliance, he now holds the dubious distinction of 7 consecutive losses, a UFC record. While the MMA community expresses concern for his health and urges retirement, Ferguson, the self-proclaimed boogeyman, refuses to surrender. One proposition lingers. Should the UFC offer him a soft serve fight, a calculated matchup designed to grant him a final victory and a dignified exit? The argument for compassion is compelling. Ferguson is a UFC legend, a warrior who captivated audiences with his unorthodox style and unwavering spirit. Seeing him retire on a 7-fight skid doesn't sit right with many, a sentiment resonating even within the ruthless heart of the sport. A win, even against a lower-ranked opponent, would allow him to walk away with his head held high, a fitting tribute to his contributions. However, such a move wouldn't be without its critics. Purists might argue that it undermines the meritocratic spirit of the UFC, giving preferential treatment to a past legend over up-and-coming contenders. Others might see it as a manufactured ending, robbing Ferguson of a genuine shot at redemption against tougher competition. Ultimately, the decision lies with the UFC, balancing respect for their veteran with upholding the competitive integrity of the sport. While offering a soft serve fight seems like a compassionate gesture, it's a complex issue with no easy answers. Perhaps the most fitting conclusion would be for Ferguson to choose his own path, whether it's a calculated comeback attempt, a final fight against a worthy opponent, or a graceful retirement on his own terms. Regardless of the UFC's decision, one thing remains certain. Tony Ferguson's legacy is already etched in MMA history. His impact on the sport and the inspiration he provided to fighters and fans alike cannot be diminished. Whether he leaves with a bang or a whisper, his place in the UFC Hall of Fame is unquestionable.